In the name of the Lord. Today is another day again. We just want to learn from the scriptures. And today I have a very interesting story that is going to cover almost everywhere in our lives. And the story that we're going to be learning from is a very unique story. And it's from the book of Genesis, chapter 16, verses 1 to 16. Jackie, please come forward with your Bible. Genesis, chapter 16, verses 1 to 16. Are you there?
It's Hagar and Ishmael. Now Sarah, Abraham's wife, had borne him no children, and she had an Egyptian maidservant whose name was Hagar. So Sarai said to Abraham, "See now that the Lord has restrained me from bearing children. Please go into my maidservant. Perhaps I shall obtain children by her." And Abraham heard the voice of Sarai. Then Sarai, Abraham's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, and gave her to her husband, to be his wife. After Abraham had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan. So he went in to Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress became despised in her eyes. Then Sarai said to Abram, "My wrong be upon you. I gave my maid into your embrace, and when she saw that she had conceived, I became despised in her eyes. The Lord judge between you and me." So Abram said to Sarai, "Indeed, your maid is in your hands. Do to her as you please." And when Sarai dealt harshly with her servant, she fled from her presence. Now the angel of the Lord found her by the spring of water in the wilderness, by the spring on the way to Shur. And he said, "Hagar, Sarai's maid, where have you come from, and where are you going?" She said, "I'm fleeing from the presence of my mistress Sarai." The angel of the Lord said to her, "Return to your mistress and submit yourself under her hand." Then the angel of the Lord said to her, "I will multiply your descendants exceedingly, so that they shall be counted for multitude." And the angel of the Lord said to her, "Behold, you are with a child, and you shall bear a son. You shall call his name Ishmael, because the Lord has heard your affliction. He shall be a wild man. His hand shall be against every man, and every man's hands against him, and he shall dwell in the presence of his brethren." Then she called the name of the Lord, who spoke to her, You are the God who sees." For she said, "Have I here seen him who sees me?" Therefore, the well was called Beer-lahai. Observe, it is between Kadesh and Bered. So Hagar bore Abraham a son, and Abraham named his son, whom Hagar bore, Ishmael. Abraham was 86 years old when Hagar bore Ishmael to Abraham.
May the Lord bless his word. Now, I wanted the story to be read completely well, so that each one of us will be able to understand this story. When we are talking about it, we'll be able to understand where it is going and where it's coming from. The story of Hagar. Let me not talk about this one as a sermon, but it's like, these are things we talk about like a gossip. We talk around, these are things we can talk about in our villages and talk about people's lives. And these are things we talk about on a daily basis. And when you look at the issue of Abraham, Sarai, Hagar, and kids, it's a lifestyle that each one of us, it's a society that each one of us, they are living in. And you discover that not having a child in our society setup, it becomes a challenge to some of us. And especially if you happen to have a heart like the heart of Abraham and Sarai. Because you realize it reached a time when they kind of were desperate and they really needed God to answer their prayers very fast. And because of that, they had to help God to answer their prayers. Have you ever been in a scenario whereby you've been praying God for something until the prayers seem to be delaying until you want to help God to answer the prayer? And many times, the only way you help God to answer your prayer is telling God, I want this one, please put a rubber stamp here. You know that one, right? God, please, I want this one, and I put a rubber stamp here. It reminded me one day, I was in Kericho, and our church really needed a place to worship. We needed a piece of land. And getting land was not that easy, and especially land for church. It was very hard. You go to the Ministry of Land, they cannot allocate you the land. Even though there was some public land which was allocated for social amenities, schools and that kind of stuff, we have lands for churches in every county. But it was not easy to get. So the only way you could do was wait when President Daniel Arap Moi was passing around, and you know he loves church. And if he's coming in your area and you happen to be the preacher of that day, before he comes, you have to speak to the DC. Tell him, please, I want to speak to the Mr. President. And I remember that time, it was well organized that you even know the piece of land that you need, plus the map. So what will happen was, after the church service, of course, the president will greet the ministers. You know, ministers are very important people in the society. So the head of state comes to greet the ministers. So when he comes to greet the ministers, you have to be prepared. You know, when you're going before God, you don't just go before God when you're not sure. You go before God with all your thanksgiving and supplications and your requests and your prayer. You go together with them all. So the secret was, when you want to appear before the Mr. Daniel Arap Moi, you go there and Mutukufu Rice. You are the only president we know around, and you could tell him anything, Baba. And the only secret was when you call Baba. So when he said yes, the only thing was you give the map, you say, sir, it is here. So he removes the big pen, and he had only one pen that nobody else had. He puts a signature, you take it to the Ministry of Land, yes? Green. Muli knows it. It was green in color. So he will just put a signature, you take the green color to the Ministry of Lands, no question about it. And that's how we got a piece of land in Kericho at that time. Okay, listen. Let's forget about the piece of land. We're talking about sometimes when you want to help God to give you what you want. Sometimes you push. We're not sure whether it is God's will, but sometimes we push. Even when we want to get married, we push God to give us a good husband. But if he doesn't come, you push more. And you tell God, this brother, this is the one. Just touch him. Touch him, Lord. This is the one. Touch him. Touch him, Lord. She's the one. Touch her, Lord. Touch her, Lord. And that's why you see nowadays, when somebody will come to me, my sister, the Lord showed me it is you. You want to help God to do what? Because he's delaying to answer your prayer. God, what is this? Push. Why are you pushing? Because you want to get some approval in the society. Tell anybody you want to get approval in the society. You understand the scenario, yeah? Please understand, this is a good story that will teach you a lot of things. Okay? Don't just laugh. So, again, I like teaching with a lot of stories. Again, I remember this guy. There's this guy who was not well, health-wise. So, unfortunately, this person was not able to get kids. And this is one of our relatives, and what happened was things were not working well. So, again, because you want to seek approval, in our African culture, they can really push you to the wall. You understand what I mean, right? So it's not only in Africa. Even during Sarai's time and Abraham's time, there were people who could push you on the wall. So you need to really push your prayers to be answered quickly at that time. In our society, there was this guy who was not having kids. And the parents were saying, hey man, you are bringing us, this one looks like a curse in our community. You need to get kids. You need to. And the guy said, I've tried, I can't succeed. Baba, I can't get. You need to think. You try to help, you are trying to help somebody to do something extra. You understand what I mean, right? You want to get extra. You can as well talk to your cousin, You know those stories, eh? You can as well talk to your cousin. This is your cousin. This is your cousin. Nobody will know. These things happen. If you have never been involved, you understand. But these things happen in the society. It was not an easy one. These things happen. But now, we are talking about Sarai, who wanted to get approval in the society. Even though God had promised to give him a child. But the funniest thing here, because God has promised you something, you start giving your own reasons. God has promised to give me a child, but he has not told me by who. By who? He only said, I will give you what? But by who? So since he left it there, it means I need to go an extra mile myself. Mungu anasaidia la anajisaidia. You know that saying, eh? God helps the person who helps himself. He said, I'll get a child, but by who? God said, I'll get a husband, but which husband? He didn't tell me whether it's born again or non-born again. He didn't tell me whether it's another religion or my religion. He did not tell me whether it's my tribe, but God just said, I'll get. So what happens is, you are not ready to wait for God's time. You are not even praying or seeking God's face to lead you now to the right person. What you're doing now is you are pushing God to do it your own way. Just like what Abraham did. Now, listen, I'm not accusing Abraham. Please understand how this story goes. This story is a mixture of a lot of stories. You look at the life of Abraham, in the first place, he is called a friend of God. He is a father of all faith. And God loves him so much, funny enough. But this guy has a lot of weaknesses. This guy, actually, I can say he's a guy who ever failed in his life. But still God said he loves him. He loves his faith. Look at this guy. He has been promised land in Canaan. And when he goes there, things become hard for him. Things become hard for him until he has to help God to make him really look like he is in a promised land. So what does he do? He has now to migrate from Canaan to where? To Egypt. So that he can survive. But God said he is going to bless him in a land that you do not know. Now, this guy goes to Egypt with a wife. See how the story started. He goes to Egypt with a wife. Reaching there, he discovers, hey, my wife is so beautiful. What will happen? I need to eat, I need to survive. So what will happen? I have Sarai here. It's beautiful. Yeah, people have beautiful wives. Beautiful, eh? You know what I mean, eh? Tell your neighbor you're beautiful. Look at that lady if she's beautiful. I know young people, that is the opportunity you wanted. That is why you need to come to HGR, because at least I give you some little time to check around. If somebody beautiful is there. Sarai was beautiful. But then there is hunger. There is hunger. The economy is not working out well for Abraham. They are in Egypt. Now he is the father of all lies. Tell Sarai, let's make a deal here. Let us say you are my sister, so that we can survive. Okay? And Sarai agrees. She agrees. I'll be your sister. Now remember, why is Abraham saying you be my sister? He knows being a sister, it means those guys will be interested in my sister. So what happens if people are interested in my sister? They tell me, give us your sister. We'll give you dowry. You'll be rich. What did you want? You get married in Mbuzi and you go. Okay? So this guy, Abraham, the father of faith, he started failing here. He goes and says, you are my sister. And surely when he reaches there, you know what happens? The pharaohs, they discover that there is a beautiful lady here. Very beautiful. And for sure, and I think Abraham knew that he had a beautiful wife. You know, a beautiful wife, people will always scramble for her. Now you see, this one is being scrambled in the palace, not in the streets. Talking about the palace, it means Abraham knew how to select. Ask your neighbor, do you know how to select? See, you are laughing because you know there is a problem in selection here. There is a problem in selection here. But Abraham knew how to select. That's why you realize there is a problem in the palace. That the people in the palace have discovered that Abraham has a beautiful girl. And they came and say, come on, we are going to give you what you want. We want her in the palace. And for sure, Abraham gave. I don't know if, ask your neighbor, will you give? Why? Nobody will give. David, will you manage that? Abraham did what? He gave. And the lady went to the palace. And we are told, while they are there, God did whatever he did. And things could not work well in the palace. Because this was somebody's wife, not somebody's sister. But Abraham had already gotten the dowry. Mbuzi ashakula. He left the promised land, now he's going to survive in Egypt. And some of us, we survive in Egypt sometimes. Let's not lie. We survive in Egypt sometimes. When things go hard, you have to survive in Egypt. And then you say, you know, God understands. Go to Egypt a little bit, you survive there, you come back to Canaan. You go to Egypt a little bit, you come again to Canaan. You know those things, eh? These are things which happen sometimes. So Abraham got all the mbuzis for dowry. And he was okay, living well in Egypt. But the wife lives in the palace. Not as Abraham's not as Abraham's wife. But she belongs now to the palace. It is until when God said, no, it cannot happen this way. When things changed in the palace. And we are told Abraham was deported. I'm not talking about I'm not boarding. This one boarded. This one boarded. And this one had all the papers. Now I'm not talking about the other one. Abraham was deported. But he boarded and he left. And he was escorted. And he was given everything to go with it. And the Bible says he was given all the wealth. He was given everything. Plus all the maid servants. All the maid servants. And that's where Hagar is. Everything. All dowry. You remember the first dowry he was given? He was given even more. You go. Just go. Just go, man. Just leave. Just leave. Just leave. Get out of here. Go. If you are the one, will you say, I'm not boarding? With all that kind of wealth you've been given, can you say, I'm not boarding? Oh, you board quickly. You board very fast. You will talk when you are on the other side of the border. So Abraham boarded. He went on the other side. Now, while he's on the other side, he remembered again Now he's satisfied. He has everything. There is one thing again he's still missing. A baby. You know, baby is a very important thing in a society. And it makes people to force God to do some things. So Abraham and Sarai decided to help God. I don't know what you've been helping God, but many times we have helped God to answer our prayers, right? Especially for young people. Don't say that I don't know. We help God to answer our prayers. And sometimes we force him. And we force him, it is this one. So Abraham, we are told, and Sarai looked at her life, and she looked at the age, and she said, hey, even though God promised, he did not tell us when we shall get the baby. Naturally, our age is going now. He did not tell us how we're going to get the baby. According to our age and nature, getting a baby at our age is more than impossible. Have you ever met people who talk like that? It is more than impossible. You meet somebody say, I'm now 40, I cannot get a baby. I'm now 40, I can't get married. Now, Papa, at this age, do you think I can get somebody who can marry me really? You understand those stories, right? Now, at this age, do you think there is someone who can really love me? So what we do is we now force God to answer our prayers. So Sarai looked at the impossibility of the age. So she decided to force God to do something. And she went. And remember, Sarai, what she's doing, she's not doing because she's the beginner of all these lies. These tricks, even though they belong to the household of God, despite the fact that Sarai was a good woman, faithful, honest, God-fearing, there is something that Sarai learned from the husband. To be tricky sometimes, in order to make things move. For them to be able to survive in Egypt, she became a sister, not a wife. So it means sometimes you want to go away from God to make things work well for you. So she remembers that, and she told Abraham, look at our age, we can't succeed. Listen, you remember this girl we came with from Egypt? I'll give you as a wife. I think that's what God wanted us to have. You take her, get kids. The kids that will get out of this, remember, she is, if you read your Bible word, she is not talking about you take this girl for only today. No. She says you take her as a wife. So it means now we become how many? Sarai had accepted to be two. At least she knew there was number two. And she accepted. And she gave all the consent, do anything you want with her until you get a baby. And Abraham did not say no. And sometimes, even now, sometimes there are things they cannot say. They say, hey, have an opportunity has arrived. Hey, my wife has agreed. Wow. She has agreed. You know, they don't accept. When she has agreed. Mara moja. So Abraham, if you read your Bible well, Abraham did not say, you know, read it very well. She just said yes, and I'm suspecting the first day, he never waited. He never waited. Because they've been waiting for a baby. And Sarai has said, take it. So consequences come. This girl, Hagar, gets a baby. And once the baby comes, things turn around. And these things happen sometimes. And especially if some of you, you've ever had house girls, and maybe a house girl happens to befriend the man of the home. These things you know, right? These are some of the problems we go through sometimes. And after some time, you realize the girl becomes so much disrespectful to you as a woman of the house. And the husband seems to be on the side of the girl again. You know these stories, you know, right? So, you know these stories, right? So, this is what was in the family of Abraham and Sarai. Hagar is a prisoner or is a slave. A slave. Now, because of the baby, she is no longer a slave. Now she is even more greater than Sarai. And it happens many times, even in these homes, when the first woman is not getting kids and then another one comes, the one who gets kids again gets more favor than the other one. So that's exactly what happened in the life of Sarai. And this woman was so much disrespectful to Sarai, and Sarai was not happy with it. Now, what happened? The blame game started. Tell your neighbor, blame game started. Yes, the blame game started. They started blaming one another. Now, the blame was, you are the one who did it. Sarai says, why did you do this? Whatever you did is the reason why she is not respecting me. And Abraham does not want to accept the responsibility. It's not because of me. No. So there was this one and this one and this one and this one going on here and there. Remember, I'm reminding you this. All these weaknesses is because of a man of God who loves God. His faith is great, and God has commended this guy. And God still says, this is my man. But at some point in life, he stopped from being spiritual. He became human. And this is the reality of life. When we are moving up and down in our lives, we need to understand sometimes we have weak up times. And that is a time when Sarai and Abraham found themselves in. They became human. And when they became human, things went wrong in their lives. Why? It's because human beings, we are made of flesh. You behave flesh. Because you are flesh. You only become spiritual because of your mind to be renewed in a spiritual realm. But if your mind is not renewed, then you are just 100% flesh. You think like flesh. You reason like flesh. Everything you do it as flesh. God had promised Abraham that he's going to make him to be a great nation in Genesis chapter 12, verses 2. He'll make him a great nation. And because of the dream that God had given to Abraham, Abraham really wanted to see this dream come true. Sarai wanted to see this dream to come true. They never wanted to waste any time anywhere. Now, ask yourself why they found themselves into this trouble. Why? You are a born again Christian. Why did you find yourself into this trouble that Abraham found himself in? Even you who is sitting here today, ask yourself, there are things that you have done that are not right before God as relates to this. When you found yourself in this scenario, what really made you to be found in this scenario? Number one, for Abraham, as I said earlier, that he wanted to be accepted in the society. Human beings, they want approval of the society. If the society has not approved you, you find you are not having peace with the people. If your villagers do not approve you, you feel you do not have confidence. That's why, like where I come from, if there are some things that I've not done in my village, then when I go there, people speak negative about me. And I don't want them to speak negative about me. As simple as building a house in my home state. They still believe I should have the small house called Isimba. Small one where boys build. They say you should have just a small house. Just to be there. People to know that this house belongs to who? To Wellington. So that when you die, your burial will be great. You know, where I come from, burial is a very great thing. It's a big ceremony. We spend millions and millions of money for burial only. We can live poor, but we can contribute towards burial. We can live in a grass house, but we can contribute towards burial. We can hire a big bus from Nairobi and go to Western for burial. Why are we doing that? Because we want to get approval in the society. So that people can say, son of so-and-so is doing great. Son of so-and-so has built a big house. Son of so-and-so is driving a big car. Son of so-and-so has a wife working in a big company. Those are the names we want. When you have approval in the society, you are fine at heart. But when you do not have approval, you do not have peace. And that is why you will find people do not want to go to their rural home. Because you cannot be approved according to your state. Because people there, they don't understand what you're going through. People there, they believe you can live as them. Whereas you feel you need to live a different life. Abraham and Sarai, they wanted to get approval in the society. So they decided to go an extra mile to take this woman to get a child, not according to God's will, but according to their own will. Are we together? Number two, why did they find themselves into this problem? It's because of the baggage that they were carrying. Ask your neighbor, what baggage are you carrying? Tell your neighbor again, what baggage are you carrying? These guys, when they went to Egypt, they came with a lot of baggage. And when you hear about Egypt, you know what is Egypt? Misri. Sirudi Misri. I don't want to go back to Misri. They came with a lot of baggage. And one of the baggages that came from Egypt was a baggage called Hagar. That was the baggage. Some of us, we've entered into relationships with a lot of Hagars. Are you together? We have entered into relationships with a lot of Hagars. You have a lot of Hagar here, another Hagar here, another Hagar there, another Hagar there. So it becomes hard for you to explain now who is that talking to you here and who is that speaking to you there and who is that on the other side. It becomes so tricky to tell your girlfriend why sister so-and-so commented on your Facebook photo. It becomes hard to say, why did so-and-so tell you I love you? Why? You have to explain a lot of whys, a lot of whys, and a lot of whys. The many problems we encounter today is people complaining about, my boyfriend is not faithful, because they are carrying a lot of Hagars around. My girlfriend is not faithful, because they are carrying a lot of Hagars around. Ask your neighbor, what Hagar are you carrying? You see? What Hagar are you carrying? I met one person who came to me complaining that my boyfriend is anahanyanga sana. Just complaining. Because, you know, with this social media thing, you talk to this one and you see she's almost saying yes. You say, let me try this one. She's almost saying yes. Maybe I can try this one also. Maybe she's almost saying yes. And that one is smiling very well. Maybe this one. So in the end, you find you have 10 who are almost saying yes. But there is one who already said, you saw me, I'm ready. One has said, I'm ready, but you're not sure because the hairstyle is not the same like the one you saw here. Another hairstyle, maybe the dressing here is different. And there are some who are just moved by the dance. You see people are dancing like this on social media. So you see, maybe this one is dancing well. So you find yourself carrying a lot of Hagars around. Tell your neighbor, what baggage are you carrying? Young people, let me tell you, you're having a lot of troubles in your relationship because of Hagars. A lot of Hagars. A lot of Hagars. A lot of Hagars. These Hagars are making us not to have a life. We can't move forward because of a lot of baggages. Abraham and Sarai had a lot of baggage they carried from Egypt. It reached a time they had to offload Hagar. In life, if you want to live well, you need to get off some baggages. If you want to have a good relationship, you need to eliminate a lot of people. Believe me, eliminate and just tell her or tell him, I have eliminated all. Yes, I had. Be honest, open up. I had several of them, but I left them because of you only. She will appreciate. Accept. I have had several of them, a lot of Hagars around. But I did that not because I'm just walking around, but I did that because I was looking for something good, but I got, and that's you. Somebody will respect you for that. When you're honest enough. Now, see, why did they find themselves into this trouble? Because of doubt. They have been promised that they are going to get a child, and God is going to make them a great nation. But they are doubting. They doubted the promises of God. Tell your neighbor, doubting the promises of God. You are not patient. You don't want to understand that God's time is the best. You are not patient to say that let the will of God to be done. You are not patient to know that God is faithful to fulfill the desires of your heart. Doubting the promises of God. You've been faithful really, and God knows you're faithful really. But you think our God is so poor to grant you the desires of your heart? Your God is so poor, or is so much forgetful to forget that he promised you something? I believe our God is so faithful. Now, let's look at the reaction. What reactions did we feel from these people? Sarai, Abraham, and Hagar. Abraham, when he was confronted, he refused to accept. He refused to be accountable. And these things happen many times. Men, we don't want to be accountable. We make mistakes. We don't want to be accountable. You get a baby with a girl, but you don't want to accept you are the one. Abraham refused. Don't say that it started today only. Even during Abraham's time, he said it was not his mistake. It is Sarai who gave, and Sarai says no. Abraham reacted, and everybody has to react. And nobody wants to accept responsibility. Nobody wants to accept the problem. Everybody says, no, it is you. No, it is you. No, it is you. So everybody, no, it's you, it's you. So Abraham responded by not being accountable. Many times, men, we don't want to accept responsibility. Responsibility when you have done something wrong. Responsibility even when it comes to doing what you're supposed to do. You don't want to be accountable. You don't want to be responsible. But then, when we come to Sarai, what did Sarai do? Sarai just became unreasonable. She don't want to reason. She just wants to cause problems with everybody just because of this problem that she has created herself. She's the one who has given this girl to Abraham. But because of her mistake, something has happened. Now she's causing trouble with everybody. She's blaming Abraham for what has happened. She's blaming Hagar for what has happened. And she is also blaming God for what has happened. You become so much unreasonable. And I don't know how many of us are unreasonable today. You don't want to accept that you are part of the problem. We are part of the problem. But we don't want to be reasonable. You want to cause trouble everywhere. You blame this one, you blame this one, you blame this one, you blame this one, you blame everybody in the society for your problems. Have you ever stopped and asked yourself, am I the one who is causing these problems? Or am I the one who caused it really? You read the Bible, Sarai did not want to accept. Even though she's the one who said, take her. When Hagar started disrespecting her, she blamed the husband. Since you got a baby with this girl, she doesn't respect me at all. And Abraham said, hey, you are the one who gave me this woman. I had never had that thought in my mind. It is your problem. There was trouble. Now you see, Abraham is not accountable. Sarai is unreasonable. Now let's look for Hagar. Hagar, he decides to run away. Hagar decides to do what? Run away. There are people today, when you face yourself into problems, you don't want to face the problem and solve it. You have a boyfriend who's giving you trouble. You don't want to solve it. You just think about quitting. And the first thing you do is to block. Even before you ask why. I saw one text message, it just came, you know those messages, the flash. So by mistake you saw love. So you didn't know if it was a brother who said, man, the love of Christ is so sufficient. But you just saw the word love. That one was enough to block and go away. Hagar had that kind of behavior. Instead of looking at this as a problem, I live here, I'm a slave, now I have got favor with this woman, and I've got favor with this man, let me respect them now, I'm no longer a slave. She decides just to cause a lot of trouble, and when she discovers that the marriage is not working, and she runs away. Everybody's running away. You don't want to be accountable for your own problems. You are in a marriage, you don't want to solve problems, you want to run away. You go telling everybody your problems until you don't want even to listen to what somebody is telling you, hey, God is going to care. God is going to solve it. No. Yours is just, I'm going. Where are you going? You'll find us here. Ask your neighbor, where are you going? Young people, let me tell you, there is no solution in blocking. Even if you block me, tomorrow you'll unblock me. Blocking will not help. You block me, I'll change the number, still I didn't book you. So, running away will not help you. Running away. Now, assuming it is God who is working in your relationship. For sure, God said this is your God. For sure, God said this is your man. God has said. So if it is God and trouble is there and the devil is causing trouble, why are you running away? Can't you face the trouble? Can't you face the Goliath and fight? Solve it. There's one thing I normally say as a man. It's good to face some issues. And when you have done a mistake, it happened. Yeah, I know it happened. So you can't kill me. It has happened and I know God has forgiven. So why are you killing me? Solve it. And that's why you realize, even at your place of work, when there is problems, instead of solving the problem at your place of work, you want to run away. When there is a problem at your place of work, you want to blame everybody. You don't want to accept responsibility. I've worked with people, in fact, I work with one who gives me trouble all the time because he believes he's always right. He believes he's always right. As long as somebody from their place speaks negative about me, he believes it is true. He doesn't believe I can say something better. So when he starts complaining, I say, listen to me. No, I cannot listen to you. He doesn't want to listen to me. Now, because of that, if you are the one, maybe, you will say, I don't want this company. These people don't like us. They hate ours. That's how you guys talk. That's how you talk. Man, it is not an issue of Surayetu. It's only that one person in that company just doesn't like you. Only one guy doesn't like you. Not everybody doesn't like you. Look around. There are guys who really love you and they really appreciate your job. How many people like you and how many people hate you? So running away will not help you. It will not. Running away from marriage will not help you solve your problems. At all. Running away from a scenario will not help you at all. Hagar was just running away for us to learn something from there. You need to accept responsibility and move forward. Sometimes you can run and run and run, you will not find a solution. Tell your neighbor, don't run. Try to solve your problems. I know some of you are not talking to one another, even after church, since you saw somebody you don't like here, after church, you don't even want to greet Papa. Pew! Not because you don't like to greet Papa, but just because you saw somebody that you hate here. So you ran away, and it has cost you all your friendships in HGR. Running away will not help you, my friend. Just face the problem. Speak it out, and the Lord will help you out. We've learned a lot of lessons from this story. It has covered almost everything in our lives. We know we need to be accountable. We know that we need to be reasonable. And we know that we don't need to run away from problems. We need to face issues. And that's what we call maturity. When you see the people of the world succeeding in everything they do, it's because they walk in maturity. Let's not talk about spirituality. They walk in maturity. You need to be mature. Tell your neighbor, be mature. Tigawana. When you have a lot of wana in you, you will cause a lot of trouble around. You will go all over talking about your issue until we know your booklet. And we wouldn't want. We want everybody of us to be blessed. We want to see you living a positive life. And today, as we finish and conclude, we'll be reading from the book of 1 John chapter 1 and verses 9. If you look at the life of Abraham and Sarai, ask yourself why these people continued being friends of God. It's because these people learned to go back to God. And that's why God had a good fellowship with these people. Because they learned a secret to confess their problems and to ask God for forgiveness. 1 John chapter 1 and verses 9. The Bible says, if we confess our sins, he is faithful and just, and will forgive us our sins, and purify us from all our unrighteousness. God is faithful to cleanse you. God is faithful to change your life. God is faithful to make you to be the person you want to be. I am sure today the Lord is transforming you people to be men of integrity, women of integrity, that when people look at you, you will not be people who will be running away from problems, but people who will be positive, following what God wants you to do. You are here today. You want to be part of God's family. Maybe it has been your prayer. You've always wanted to be born again. And you have always felt that you need a change in your life. I want to pray for you today. You are there, you want to be born again? Can you please stand on our feet?